Hey, what's going on, my friends? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 5 more things I think you ought to know about tonight's powerful full moon / lunar eclipse happening on January 10th, 2020. If you watch my channel, you know I was just on here a few days ago sharing with you 5 other things. Well, there's just so much going on, quite frankly, and this cycle is just that powerful and that significant that here I am again. Okay, the main thing a lot of you might be experiencing right now is an extremely elevated vibrational frequency. These full moon cycles, especially when there's an eclipse involved, what they do is they take your frequency that might be kind of course, it fluctuates throughout the day, but your base, your core, your home frequency jumps up quite a bit. And that's why it's so common during these times to feel a bit overwhelmed, like life is just happening really quickly, like you have a lot of emotions coming up and you're real sensitive to them. You might feel it in your body where you're a little tired, a little achy, getting a cold or something like that. And all this is happening at once. It can make a lot of people dread these extremely valuable times. Okay, so if any of that's happening, it's okay. It's a byproduct of your extreme and rapid spiritual progress, and much more, of course, will be revealed in the video where I'm going to break this down into 5 much more specific and grounded themes that I think you'll relate to and I think will help a lot of things going on in your life make a lot of sense. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you, my friend. I'll see you inside. Number 1, I wrote down the ending of winter, and what I mean is in a spiritual sense. A lot of you have probably discovered already that the spiritual journey contains various seasons, right? There are times where things are just flowing into your life effortlessly and ideas are coming to you. Perfect, divinely timed circumstances are just popping into your life and you feel like you're just racing forward in your spiritual journey in a state of joy and connectedness, and it's like nothing can go wrong, nothing can faze you. And a lot of times when people get to that point in their journey, they think, I've made it. This is it. This is great. Oh my goodness. And then when the seasons turn, and there's other, we'll get into that in a moment, and people feel like, what went wrong? I had it over there in the summer, but now I'm being challenged again. Old emotions I thought I dealt with are coming up again. So that's an example of the seasons, and it's just going to keep changing and cycling through, just like a lot of nature and life, okay? Well, right now, what I'm getting at is that winter, maybe the most dreaded season of the year, is coming to an end. Now, winter is also the most important. Winter is when you're doing a lot of your work and you're making a lot of your plans and making a lot of arrangements in your life. This isn't as expansive and exhilarating and as fun as the spring or the summer or the fall. But when you really learn how to make the most of your problems, of your complications, of the issues that are being brought to your attention at this time. If you can look at it with the mindset that this is just a season, I'm just in the winter, and by golly, I'm gonna make it a very productive winter because I know what's coming. Okay, we're on the tail end of that kind of energy. You might feel like you're being bombarded with awareness about many aspects of your life that you want to change, many aspects about yourself, maybe your behaviors, your health, your habits, your mindset, the people you surround yourself with, the career you have, and it can be a lot of information about things you got to do all at once. Winter, not always fun, but again, if you can learn how to embrace the winter, you have a lot to look forward to. And number 5, my friends, is going to talk about the coming of spring, which is kind of where we're at right now. So stick around to 5 because there's a lot of hope that's going to come from what I just said. Number 2, I wrote down quite plainly, major downloads. Okay, what I mean by that is that amidst having all these different things pop into your life, or maybe you're having a day where just things are going wrong and it's like you feel like you're out of sync. Those times, it's like life kind of shakes us up, and it can shake us out of our predictable routine and rhythm and patterns of thinking. And even though it's not pleasant because it's uncomfortable when change sort of is imposed upon us, it can feel like. But in that change, in that sort of altered state, you have access, you have finally access to what's always been there, but you've been kind of missing because we've been kind of going through life on autopilot a little bit. So you might find that you have like these random periods where you just get flooded with, I call them downloads. That's what the cool kids call them. It's like a really good idea that just pops in your head very organically, that resonates and makes you say, oh, there's something there, that resonates, that feels like it came from spirit. And I just had this faith and this knowingness that if I was to apply this into my life, it would be very good. And you might find yourself having periods like where you get a lot of those ideas at once, and that's what you want. That's when you want to write them down. This happened to me just the other day. I was having a wintry morning, you could say, and I was sitting right over there. And all of a sudden, I put on some tunes. I was jamming a little bit, trying to get myself out of the funk. And it was like, I have all these sloppy notes over there on my iPad because it was like, I just got so many powerful ideas at once. And even though they've yet to be applied, and so they haven't really done anything for me yet, I know that when I get into the spring, which is coming, I can start applying these, and I know the powerful implications they're gonna have on my life. So write those downloads down, my friend. Also, number 3, due to your heightened spiritual connectedness, you might find that you are just feeling more connected spiritually, literally what I just said. You might be having more experiences with the other side, is kind of what I'm implying here, where in interactions with deceased loved ones or spirit guides or just the spirit world, where you can kind of peer into it in some way, shape, or form, it's going to be a little bit easier, a little bit more commonplace. You might find yourself having these experiences at times where you least expect it, like me. The other day I do this flotation therapy now where I'm in this tank filled with water, and it's like pitch black, no sounds. I'm laying in this tank, sort of meditating is sort of the idea. And I could see, I was like almost like blinking my eyes, how am I seeing something? I thought like a light must have been turned on in the room or something, which freaked me out. Who's in the room? I wondered. No light was on. I was seeing these beings, like multiple beings in this little hub with me. Okay, it kind of freaked me out, I must admit. I wasn't expecting that. So that happened. I've also been having like tons of like downloads and dream experiences. Now that's me. That's how what happens to me. So this could happen to you in a very different way. Some of you, it might be more obvious and more stereotypically mystical and really exciting. Other people, it might be more subtle because you just don't require all the bells and whistles that some people do. Everyone's got their own way of communicating with spirit, but we're living in a time, this cycle in particular, you're gonna be more sensitive to spirit and whatever that word means to you. Okay, so just be on the lookout, because in this heightened state of consciousness that you're now in right now, you have access to a lot of divine guidance, but you also have access and are susceptible to just sort of benign experiences, kind of like what I described. Nothing came of my flotation session. It was just beings sort of popped in, and I actually told them to go away. I said, if you're not of the highest vibration and of the highest light, I'd prefer at this time to be left alone, and then they were gone. So that was a bit unnerving and kind of comical now that I look back. But my point is, we're just tapped in, man. We're living in a new time, in a new era, in a new consciousness, and this kind of stuff very well might just happen. Even though all this is extremely positive, being charged up with spirit, peering in to the other side more effortlessly. When you're at this new frequency, when your vibration has risen recently to a higher degree than your body is accustomed to, you might feel it in your body. You might find yourself kind of burning out or spinning out at times, or you can just sort of, everyone's got their own physical cues when they need to rest and rejuvenate and recuperate. Okay, it's wise to take some extra time for self-care. And oftentimes when you take the time for self-care, that's when you'll have your spiritual experiences. In fact, I had another one just earlier, like an hour ago. I was doing my Kundalini yoga upstairs and my foam rolling and breath work, and I went in the sauna, and I was doing other things that work for me to help me feel like I'm recovering. And in like the middle of my Kundalini yoga set, I had sort of the same experience where like beings sort of popped in to my vision. Just my sober eyes could pick up on these like, I don't know, like energy balls in a sense that seem to have a personality of their own, if you will. Take that for what you will. That's what happened to me. But it's a great time for self-care. Again, for multiple reasons. One, to kind of help you settle in. Life can be chaotic. Life can be overwhelming. Life can stress us out. Life can distract us from the beautiful and heightened state of consciousness we actually are at. And a little bit of yoga or meditation or dancing, whatever works for you, can really like whoosh, bring you in and say, where you're almost like you're opening your eyes for the first time and saying, wow, this is who I am. This is how I can perceive reality. It's also wise to do just for your own physical well-being, okay? And number 5, the coming of spring. As I said, those who can be productive in the winter and learn from the complications or problems or issues or challenges, however you want to label them, will be rewarded heavily in the spring. Now the spring is a great time to really start applying a lot of the lessons you've been learning and really starting to express in a very real, grounded and physical way some of your inspiration, some of your creative energy. And you're going to find when you do this, you'll have cleared away so many distractions, so many potential disturbances. That's what the winter's about. It's sort of about clearing, it's almost like shoveling your snow so you can back out really easily, okay? But meanwhile, your car's in the garage getting all upgraded and tuned up and supercharged up and, you know, new tires. So it's like there's a lot being worked on in yourself spiritually. Like there's a lot of growth, a lot of lessons, just a lot of growth essentially. But you're also clearing away all the things that would get in your way as you sail forward smoothly into the spring. And if you can really just look at the growth as positive, look at the challenging emotions surfacing as what's coming is going. You're releasing that. Look at some of the things you got to kind of tweak in your life as opportunities to improve your life. And if you can have that sort of that mindset of someone who's just going to make the most of everything life is throwing at them, then as we turn into spring, which we are kind of now, you're going to find yourself just glowing, just feeling great. You don't even need things to happen. You're just going to feel good. You're going to feel clear. You're going to feel free. You're going to feel ready to rock and roll and go. Okay? This now, with all that said, another important and relevant angle, this also something you'll experience in your outer life as well. And I'll give an example of what it's like to transition into spring from my past. So, as many of you know, a long time ago, I lived in Michigan. And it was a dream of mine and my family's, my wife, my kids, to move all the way to San Diego. And at that point, before we moved, I was on the spiritual journey for about a decade, putting a lot of time in, a lot of winters endured, you know. And we finally had the means and the way to finally move to San Diego. Now, we did this in a very small 21-foot RV we were going to live in for a while. And I'll never forget, we moved in, I think, November. And driving from Michigan to San Diego in this RV was insane. It was a treacherous journey. We hit every snowstorm imaginable that just happened to be in the mountains. I'll never forget like driving at 3 a.m, uphill, up into the mountains, on the ice, seeing cars spun out left and right, knowing that we had to keep going because the storm was only gonna continue blowing in for several days. So I was like trying to stay awake, trying not to die, and we were going like 20 miles an hour uphill in the mountains on freaking ice. And I was like, that's like the peak of winter, okay? A couple days later, and a couple of other crazy experiences later, we arrived in San Diego. We got our RV parked, and we were so happy. The whole family was just filled with joy. In fact, we got there in like the late afternoon, and we had just enough time to make it to the beach for the sunset. And I remember walking out on that sand, seeing the sunset, seeing my children playing, and we literally raising my arms and it was such an epic spiritual life victory, and it happened so quick At that point, there was no more snowman. We were going to the beach. We were in San Diego. It was just positive experiences flowing in, filling. At that time, my YouTube channel started to kind of go nuts and explode, and all these amazing things happened, okay? But that was right after winter. It can happen very, very, very quickly. So my friend, if you find this video, you find yourself in the peak of winter, know that spring is a-coming. Okay? And spring is good. Spring is fun. Spring is exhilarating. And this full moon lunar eclipse represents the coming of spring. Okay, my friends, I hope you enjoyed that video. Before you go, I want to share with you 2 additional tips, words to the wise that I know is going to help you a lot with this upcoming cycle. Tip number 1 is always trust how you're feeling. A lot of times these big cycles, whether it's a full moon or an eclipse or an equinox or new moon, whatever, they roll around and they shake us up. They shake us up emotionally, they shake up our minds, they shake up our life, and it can feel like we're just caught in like a whirlwind of transformation. It reminds me of the Tower tarot card, if you've ever seen it. It's got people flying out of a tower. It's like, it looks negative, but really it just is a transformation. And that's what these cycles represent. But in the midst of all that sort of disorientation, there's actually a heightened ability. It's like your feelings of what's right for you or wrong for you, that is heightened. It'll be way more obvious. I'll give an example. So last night, I was like having trouble sleeping. I have so many things going on in my own life. I have a retreat to run and host in 2 days. I got all these different deadlines. I got 3 kids as a constant, my own personal life. And anyway, I woke up all throughout the night. Whenever I'd wake up, my mind would just be super racy, but abnormally so. My thoughts were just going crazy and I couldn't sleep. So finally I woke up early this morning anyway, I like set myself right with some meditation, but I still was sort of like, again, caught in that kind of whirlwind. But my first task of the day just happened to be writing an article for this new website that I'm going to be writing for, Spirit Science. You might have heard of it. And in spite of the nuttiness of my life, when I sat down to write that article, it was like time vanished. I basically just channeled this 1,600 word article in like 45 minutes, and it came out so well, and I felt so amazing. It was so obvious that whatever's going on in my life, this type of thing, this task, this particular thing is right for me. Even though amidst the confusion, I could feel that this thing fits in my life. I'm gonna make sure this stays. Now you also might experience that on the other side of the token, where amidst the speed of this awakening and the speed of this cycle, you might feel strongly about certain things that don't belong in your life. Either way, the information is gold. That's your soul speaking to you through your feelings, saying, yes, do this, or no, you need to stop doing this. But if you take actions based on those feelings, you're gonna be able to really make big positive changes in your life. Number 2 is something I just heard the other day. In fact, I think it was yesterday, that I just wanted to pass along to you. It was very helpful to me. It was a couple days ago. I was driving and I was like listening to this guy I sometimes listen to named Bashar. He's a channeler. You may or may not be into him, doesn't matter. And he was responding to someone's question, and he advised this person. He said, no matter what you're doing, even if it's going to the grocery store, taking out the garbage, tying your shoes, whatever you do in life, do it like a shaman. Do it like a Zen master. I was like, oh wow, okay. I was like driving my car at the time, listening to YouTube through my radio, and I was like, how would a Zen master drive? Well, they'd take time to kind of notice the surrounding. They'd probably take a moment to appreciate. They'd probably take a breath. They needed to come back into their center. And within a moment of hearing that advice, I was like embodying what my version of what a shaman or a Zen master was. And it was very, very helpful. So at any point during this time you feel out of sorts, my friend, remember, you can do life like a shaman. Okay? Just having that sort of little mental permission slip. I found very valuable, and I wanted to pass it on to you. With all that said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. I thank my longtime subscribers. I thank and welcome everybody who's new. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for sharing it with your friends. It helps the channel grow. And just thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for the transformation you're allowing yourself to go through, for you are spreading light in your own way and uplifting the collective frequency in a very powerful way, even if it doesn't always seem that way. You're doing a lot of hard work, and I recognize it, and I'm always rooting for you. God bless.